So today I want to talk about chase scenes. There's a few ways to kind of have a chase scenario going on. I think it tends to happen in cities, but even when it doesn't happen in cities, you might want to have a chase, through the woods, through a secret area. I like to divide them into two separate kinds of chases. One in which is a battle map, so a battle map in which there is motion ongoing. This happens a lot more in sci-fi, at least in my games. So, but it can happen in the fantasy games, and I'm going to demonstrate one of those. So there's the battle chase, and then there's also the proverbial chase scene, where you're trying to chase down a thief or an assassin through town or something like that. So we're going to cover both of these scenarios. The first one is going to be the battle map. You'll obviously need some sort of map where the chase is going to happen. In this particular scenario, you could just use this map. There's nothing saying you can't. But when we're inside the VTTs, I prefer to actually flex some of the tools they have. In person is better in my opinion, but when you're not in person, you might as well use some of the bells and whistles. So let's make this map move a bit. In the FX, we're going to add a couple areas here. So one of the places I'm going to start with is clouds. This gives a general directionalized movement. We don't want it to be everywhere though, right? We want to give the players a feel of directionality. We don't want to cover up the battlefield in which they're happening. So we're going to enable the mask, and then we're going to determine the area in which we want the background movement to be taking place. On a road, this is very easy. The sides where your players shouldn't end up, not that they can't end up, but where they shouldn't end up is where we're going to place these. And what I would do is just follow the road a bit, right? And then when we release this, that section will have a moving feel to it. And now we'll edit this in just a minute. So now that we have the sides of our roads in motion, we're giving ourselves kind of a directionality to where this motion is going. We can alter this all together at once, increasing the speed, increasing the number of clouds, changing the amount of shadows it has, maybe just making an offset, dimming it down. So like we can change this to give it a greater feel. I like the speed being high, obviously, in the chase. We want that to be motion. And then what I'm going to do is add another layer, and I'm going to use the Ocean FX. Now, distortion is how they accomplish the ocean effect. And it looks weird right now, but hang with me. So if we go to the cart, what I want to do is create the shaking of the cart. And that we're going to accomplish that with the distortion. So let me go ahead and open this up and frustrate you with it. All right, so here is our now distorted cart. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn down the actual distortion, so that's not happening as frequently, and then I'm going to alter what segments are being distorted, right? So if I change the horizontal and vertical and I lower the amount of distortion, get a vibration. This is actually what I love to use for room traps and stuff like that too. So you can shake the room, or perhaps the castle is collapsing after you've beat the final villain and you've got to run out. That'll bring us into the other one. But this combined is typically where I will leave a battle map like this. All right, so we've got directionality and motion. I've got shaking. I feel pretty good about, hey, this is a map where we're using the VTT to give us some feel for the battle. All right. You can go through and even cause distortional ripple effects to make the horses look like they're rolling. You could also use some of that to give the ground a flare as if the dirt's kicking up. But like, I'm not an animation specialist or anything like that. So you just watch me do that. Now the proverbial chase, the chase scene. I like to use the generation method here because in the in the heat of the moment, as the person's running, I don't want me to be dragging down the adrenaline by having to figure out what the next scenario is. What's the next object that got in the way? What's the next thing that's causing a problem? So when I prepare these out, you have plenty of time to do that. But players will break into chases kind of randomly, so being able to have one at the ready is pretty decent. And I like giving my players the option to give chase. So, because my smarter enemies run. So we'll just say a random chase. All right. We could affix this to a dice roll, but I'm not doing that. So we want to use the templates, not the story itself, so that when we generate, it's going to roll everything on the table. Now we're going to pull out some tables. If you've ever played with Mad Libs, you're going to see where this is going real fast. So I'm going to start with 3 tables, and then I'll show you where you can add a lot of tables to this. In fact, there's some people who sell those tables. So let's throw 3 tables out here, and we're not going to go super crazy into options, but you'll see what I'm doing. So first off is chases are broken into scenes when it first starts, and then, you know, an event, and those events are scenarios that the players have to beat. A lot of times you can utilize this just like a skill challenge, where you can just say, hey, you know, the enemy succeeds and you have to get a certain number of successes to catch them, right? So like in that case, you're just narrating the enemy accomplishing the task, and the players have to figure out how to solve the same task that the enemy just solved, right? If they fail too many times, they lose them, right? That's just a skill challenge in a chase. Now, if you were doing it in a more, I think it's Pathfinder that brought me to this. If you're doing it in the more, you know, you've got to actually catch the guy, then it's positional, and you have 3 positions, like the lead position, mid position, and the failing position, the back position, right? And every success can move you up a position, but if everyone succeeds, then no positions are changed. So you have to reach the guy at the front to win the chase. That can go on for a long time. So it's not always my favorite. I kind of prefer just making it a skill challenge. So many successes gets you there. So, but we'll just say like, we'll break it into a couple scenes. So we'll just say there are 3 scenes right now. All right. And then what we're going to do is have a dialogue box. The dialogue box is going to allow you to prompt, you know, somebody. So when you get that, you can hit the dialogue box, and it will show them the text of what you're doing. You can then, you know, narrate it to a degree if you want. Well, let's make this simple. All right, so we'll do an urban chase, because urban chases are easy to come up with ideas for. At least for me, I think they're pretty easy to come up with ideas. So it's going to begin with the, you know, what's happening, and we'll just say they dart. Okay, so let's say chase urban, and then that's going to be the table we are rolling on. Chase urban, right? And now this is going to fix the area that is happening, and then the second tables are going to give us the qualifier. What is it that players have to accomplish in this? So we'll say they dart, and then we'll say in between buildings. Okay, so this is setting the, now we need to talk about a confined space, like a confined area. So we'll say urban small, and then over here we'll say urban small, and then we'll say they dart out into the street, and that'll be urban medium or something. All right, and the other table is going to be urban medium. All right, so we're mad libbing. So now we've got them darting in between buildings. All right, so now when they dart in between buildings, what do they find there, right? And we're going to decide right now what kind of check this is going to be. I like my players arguing the skill. All right, so I don't preface this is going to be athletics. What I preface is this will require strength, and then the players get to argue how they're accomplishing the task. So in between the buildings where a fence is present, right? And that's going to be our strength test, okay? And then also between the buildings where there are crates stacked up, and that's going to be like decks. And just because I'm going to give an example for each stat, I guess, I'll add another one, and then we'll say in between buildings where refuse and garbage are piled. Con. All right. So these will randomly appear when they dart between buildings. And then when we say out into the street, we'll say where townsfolk are gathered. Going to require a charisma. Or we'll say where sheep are being herded. All right, I'll make that a wisdom. And then sure, we'll give you an int. Where merchants are setting, where men are stacking logs. All right, so we've got our areas where this is going to happen, and now what you'll see is when we click this, it's going to generate these for us. And I like to add in pictures. So if I add a column to the list, we can go in and grab images, and you can stack whatever kinds of images we got. So let's say I got a market, and we'll pull up like that's in the city, so let's do like POIs, ruins and forts, landscapes. I guess we're just sticking in the city. We'll draw up an alley for when they're out there. Sure. Okay, so you can have some images that are present when we do this. Now, when we click the random chase button, it's going to give us the list, right? So they dart out, and this is why you leave the chat bubble. You can just throw it out there. They know what they're going to do. If you want, you can throw the images into the areas so they can look at them if they want. They don't have to like go look at what you did, but you can give them scenes to set up. But this is the, setting up a chase scene. Now, when I mentioned the Mad Lib, this is where you can get more and more. Where we just said they dart, this front can be different too. Like if you don't want to come up with the words on the fly either, you can even add into there. Make it another one like beginning chase, and then it can say, they dart, or they run off, or they turn down, or I think you're getting the idea. But as you piece these together, now you have your chases. You can set one up for the in town. You can set one up for in the woods. And then you're covered a lot of where the chasing happens. So, but thank you for watching. And next time we will discuss a lot of the questions that have been building up that I just haven't answered.